Hi everyone, my name is Susie Q and I am the owner and maker of Glitter with Susie Q. If you like the content that you're seeing, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also connect with me by Facebook, Instagram, and email. Say hello to spring with this absolutely gorgeous Peekaboo Bee Epoxy tumbler. Everything that I use will be linked in the description box below. We're going to use a 20-ounce tumbler today. I am going to use this sanding block in order to scuff up the sides of the tumbler. After I am done using my sanding block, I'm going to take this and I am going to go and wash it off in the sink in order to get all that sanding dust off of it. I'm going to start off by painting my tumbler in the Arteza acrylic paint in the color gold using this fluffy makeup brush. After I'm done painting, I'm going to set my tumbler aside and let the paint dry for probably 30 to 45 minutes. After my paint is completely dry, I'm going to take my Crystalac glitter glue and I'm going to spread it all over my cup. After I spread my glitter glue all over my cup, I am going to use the color Honeycomb glitter from Glitter Chimp, and I'm going to spread that all over my cup as well. Normally, I prefer to use the epoxy method whenever I am applying glitter. I do not know why I chose to do the glitter glue this time, but it ended up working out just fine. I just normally like to use the epoxy method. Once all of the glitter is on, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to use my fingers to kind of press down some of those stray glitters. I am then going to put my glitter back into the jar, and then in about an hour I am going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to roll my cup in on the paper in order to get the remaining pieces of glitter that are stuck up really pushed down so that we can do a lot less layers of epoxy. After the glitter glue has dried for about 2 hours, I'm going to go through with another layer of glitter glue in order to seal my glitter down. In this case, it doesn't really need a sealing coat because if the glitter travels a little bit, it doesn't matter. This was the only glitter that I used on this layer, but in order for me to use less layers of epoxy, I wanted to make sure that those really big pieces and chunks of glitter were laid down flat so that less epoxy was needed later. After I did this, I let my cup dry for 2 hours, and then I moved into my epoxy layer. I went ahead and I mixed up about 25 to 30 milliliters of epoxy, and I spread my epoxy all over my tumbler in order to completely coat and saturate the glitter in epoxy. I let my tumbler spin overnight in order for the epoxy to cure, and once it was fully cured, I then moved on to my next step. In between each layer of epoxy, I like to clean off the rim of my tumbler by sanding it and using my crafting knife to scrape away any epoxy that is somewhere that it shouldn't be. I am doing this so that later on I don't have to get many layers of epoxy off of the rim. Once I'm done doing the rim, I am going to sand down the entire tumbler, and I am going to just try to smooth it out as much as possible. Once I'm done smoothing it out, I then take my tumbler back to my kitchen sink and I use dish soap and water in order to clean off all the sanding dust. Once all the sanding dust is off by washing it, I go through another layer of epoxy. Since this mix has a chunky glitter in it, it takes at least 2 layers of epoxy in order for it to be smooth enough in order for me to do my peekaboo stencil vinyl. So here I am. I mixed up probably 20 milliliters of the Flynn Sisters Fast Cure Epoxy, and I'm spreading it all over my tumbler, and then I'm going to let it spin until it is fully cured, and then I'll put on my stencils. After every time that I apply epoxy, I use a torch in order to blow out all of the micro bubbles that you may not be able to see when you are just looking at your epoxy. This helps so that you have to do less layers of epoxy and you don't have a bumpy finish at the end. Again, I am cleaning off the rim and getting any dust or debris and even paint that may have spilled over into the cup. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sand it down one more time to ensure that I am getting a very smooth surface so that I can apply my stencil vinyl. I am using my tape in order to measure off where I want my vinyl to go. I'm going to use paint in order to stripe my tumbler, and I want to have those paint stripes equal on the tumbler. So I am marking my cup where each color will go, and then I'm putting my stencils down in a place that I want them according to those stripes. I am using Honeycomb stencils, and then also I'm using little ovals. Those ovals are going to be the bodies of the bee. I thought that it would look really cool to have just a smidge of glitter peeking through the vinyl of the bees that were floating around this cup. I then erased the marks that I created earlier, and now I'm taping off the cup, and I am doing a layer of tape, a spacer, layer of tape, spacer, layer of tape, and then the bottom part is just going to be blank. So I then use this black paint that I got from the dollar store a long time ago, and I am painting the parts of the cup that are exposed from the tape. I then go in with a second layer. After that first layer dries, I want to go in with a second layer because I want to make sure that I have really good coverage of this black paint. After the second layer of paint, I go ahead and I immediately peel the tape off of the tumbler. I am trying to be really careful in order for me not to pull off those stencils that are below the tape. I was not careful enough. It is not until I am editing this footage right now that I noticed that I pulled up one of my bee parts of my stencils. I could not find this when I was peeling up my stencils here in a moment, but I just thought that it was underneath paint and I couldn't see. It turns out that it was pulled up by the tape. Here I am going in with my yellow Arteza paint, and this paint color is called lemon yellow. I'm going through and I am painting each of the parts that has not been painted yet. This paint gave me decent coverage, but I needed to do 3 layers of this paint in order to get the coverage that I wanted. I just go through very carefully and I am painting the parts that are not painted already. Once each layer is dry, I then go in with another layer of paint. Again, this took 3 layers of paint to get the coverage that I wanted in order for it to look in which the way I had envisioned. Once the paint is dry, I go through and I am very carefully peeling off the stencil vinyl that I have used. I am going through and I can easily see the outlines of the stencil, so I'm just going through and I'm making sure that I'm very careful not to scratch the paint that I have put on the tumbler. I go around the cup and I search for those pieces and I pick them up with my picker tool. I am going to make sure that all of the stencils that I laid down are picked up. If I don't pick up all the stencils, then you will be able to see them through the epoxy layers that we add in our next step. Here I am putting a layer of epoxy on. I could have gone in and done my vinyl work on top of the paint, but my fear was if I need to reposition a bee, I was afraid pulling it up was going to pull up some of my paint. So I just wanted to make sure that I had a layer of epoxy between the paint and the vinyl, so if I needed to reposition, I could. So here I go, and I am going to take the wings of the bee and I am going to put them on top of the bee and then take the full bee off of the carrier sheet and put it wherever there is a bee-shaped oval shape on my tumbler. I go through and I do this with all of the bees, and I just try my hardest to line up those bees as best as I can. Comment below on how you think this tumbler turns out. If you try to make it on your own, please tag me so that I can see all of the creations that you make. I then take my tumbler over to my turner, and here I'm going to do the last 2 layers of epoxy using the Flynn Sisters Artist Cure Epoxy. After each layer, I use my torch in order to blow out any of those bubbles that I might not be able to see. And here's the final product. I love how this tumbler came out. It is so pretty and it just screams spring to me. I cannot wait for warmer weather and maybe to see a bee or two. You can connect with me on social media with Facebook and Instagram, and you can also send me an email. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. But now it's time for you to watch the video that's suggested for you on the screen. Have a great day. Bye.